The maintenance bay of Station Kepler 442 hummed with the usual cacophony of repairs and recalibrations. Jack wiped grease from his calloused hands, his human eyes scanning the endless queue of damaged equipment that seemed to multiply faster than he could fix them. As the only human mechanic in this sector of the galaxy, he'd grown accustomed to the curious stares from the various alien species that frequented the station. "Another thruster array," Daisy announced, her voice carrying across the bay as she wheeled in yet another piece of scorched machinery. The young human engineer had been his partner for 3 years now, and Jack couldn't imagine running the operation without her methodical approach to diagnostics. "Looks like someone tried to jump to hyperspace while still in a gravity well." Jack shook his head, a wry smile crossing his weathered face. "Third one this week. You'd think beings capable of interstellar travel would read the manual." The familiar sound of their banter was interrupted by an unusual noise, a soft, keening wail that seemed to echo from somewhere deeper in the station's corridors. Both humans paused, their heads turning toward the source. "That doesn't sound mechanical," Daisy observed, her brow furrowing with concern. Jack set down his plasma welder and followed the sound, his curiosity overriding his schedule. They traced the crying through several maintenance tunnels until they emerged into a lesser-used section of the station's residential district. There, huddled against a massive support beam, was a creature unlike anything they'd encountered before. The being was roughly the size of a large dog, but covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep emerald and sapphire blue. Its elongated neck curved gracefully, supporting a head that was distinctly draconic, complete with small horns and large, luminous eyes that sparkled with unshed tears. Delicate wings, translucent like stained glass, folded against its sides. "Is that?" Daisy whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "A dragon," Jack finished, though the word felt inadequate. This was clearly a young one, perhaps equivalent to a human child, and it was clutching something protectively against its chest while continuing to emit those heartbreaking sounds. Jack approached slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. Years of working with skittish alien clients had taught him the value of patience. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, crouching down to the hatchling's level. The young dragon looked up, its eyes widening at the sight of the humans. Most species in the galaxy viewed dragons with a mixture of awe and terror. The ancient race was known for their incredible intelligence, near immortality, and devastating power when provoked. But this was clearly just a child, lost and frightened. Through broken sobs, the hatchling held up what it had been clutching. A small mechanical toy that resembled a miniature starship. One wing hung at an odd angle, and several of its tiny engines were dark and lifeless. "Oh, sweetie," Daisy cooed, her maternal instincts overriding any fear. "Is your toy broken?" The hatchling nodded vigorously, fresh tears streaming down its scaled cheeks. It began speaking in a melodic language that neither human understood, but the distress was universal. Jack extended his hand slowly. "May I take a look?" After a moment's hesitation, the young dragon placed the damaged toy in Jack's palm. It was an exquisite piece of craftsmanship, far more sophisticated than it initially appeared. The propulsion system used principles of physics that Jack barely understood, and the materials were unlike anything in his experience. "This isn't just a toy," he murmured to Daisy. "This is like a scale model of actual dragon technology." For the next 2 hours, Jack worked with the precision and care he usually reserved for the most delicate starship components. He couldn't replace the exotic materials, but his human ingenuity found workarounds. A bit of standard durasteel here, some rewired circuits there, and a small power cell that would provide the energy needed to make the engines glow again. Daisy assisted, her smaller hands perfect for the intricate work, while also keeping the hatchling distracted with gentle conversation and what she hoped were comforting gestures. The young dragon watched their every movement with intense curiosity, its crying gradually subsiding into occasional sniffles. Finally, Jack activated the tiny starship. Its engines blazed to life, the miniature vessel hovering above his palm with perfect stability. The hatchling's eyes went wide with joy, and it let out a trill of pure delight that made both humans smile. "There you go," Jack said, carefully placing the repaired toy back into the dragon's eager claws. "Good as new." The hatchling immediately began playing, making the tiny ship dance through the air while emitting sounds that Jack assumed were happy ones. Then, with surprising grace, the young dragon approached him and gently pressed its snout against his chest, a gesture that felt unmistakably like gratitude. What neither Jack nor Daisy knew was that they were not alone in the corridor. Hidden behind a bend in the passageway, concealed by technology beyond human comprehension, stood a figure of immense presence and ancient wisdom. The Dragon Emperor had been searching for his grandson for hours, ever since the hatchling had wandered away during their visit to the station. He had expected to find the young one terrified or possibly threatened by the lesser species that inhabited this place. Instead, he witnessed something extraordinary. These humans, weak, short-lived creatures that most of the galaxy barely acknowledged, had shown his heir a kindness that expected nothing in return. They had invested time, skill, and genuine care in solving a problem that meant nothing to them but everything to a crying child. The Emperor watched as his grandson played contentedly with the repaired toy, observed how the humans ensured the hatchling was truly happy before beginning to leave. No attempt to curry favor, no request for payment or recognition, just pure selfless compassion. In his 3 millennia of existence, the Dragon Emperor had seen countless species rise and fall. He had witnessed acts of heroism and depths of cruelty that defied description. But this simple act of kindness toward a stranger's child touched something in his ancient heart that he had thought long dormant. As Jack and Daisy finally departed, confident that the young dragon was no longer in distress, the Emperor emerged from his concealment. His grandson immediately flew to him, chattering excitedly about the nice humans who had fixed his favorite toy. The Emperor's massive form shifted, scales rippling with colors that had no names in human language. He looked in the direction the humans had gone, then at his grandson's joyful face, and made a decision that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Perhaps it was time the dragons reconsidered their stance on humanity. Perhaps these small, fragile beings possessed something that even the mightiest of dragons had forgotten: the simple power of unconditional kindness. The Emperor smiled, an expression that would have terrified armies, but in this moment held only warmth and newfound respect.